Right, so we have the capability of registering, right? And when we register successfully, we navigate to the profile page. That's great. Let's go back and let's try and do the something similar to the login page, right? So one of the challenges here in the login is that we need to be able to retrieve or find the user by their credentials, right? By their username and password. And we have a couple of users already added to a database. I think we have Alice, Bob, we have QQ, and WW. All right, so we have these users we can play around with. Okay, so let's see how we can retrieve this. All right, so in the login, let's create a controller for the login. Let's say new. So this would be login.controller.client.js. Please use this naming convention unless you have a compelling reason not to. If you're in a if you have a current job or you're in a or some team that you belong to that uses a different naming convention that you feel comfortable with, sure, right? So, but just don't just not use it just because you don't want to. Just have a good reason. All right. So the controller. Let's create an IFI. And when we use ES6 next week or later this week, right, all these IFIs will go away. We won't need to because in the new versions of JavaScript, modules are the norm. Okay. All right. So let's see. We'll need to get a hold of these templates, right? Of the elements here. So we'll say username and the password from the controller. Let's see. So we're going to declare some variables here for those username and password. I'm going to use a naming convention to distinguish, or at least to give me an idea that this variable is not just any variable. Right? It's a variable that's going to be bound to a DOM object. Okay. It's not going to hold strings or integers or any primitive data types. Yes. It's going to be bound to a DOM element that has been retrieved using Jquery. Okay, so I'll put a $sign in front of it. Right, and $sign is just a common symbol for variables. And let's see, we'll need also a password, and we'll also need the button. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have the login button. We'll give it an ID. So this is a login btn. There we go. Right, and also we're going to grab that from Jquery. All right, so we have that. Also, we're going to put a function here. We'll call it the init function, just to specify or make it clear that this is the beginning of this module, right? That this is where everything starts, right? We could have just declared our executables right here, but this is very common, right? To put the code that we want to execute specifically under a function that we then specifically call ourselves. And so this is the beginning. So it's not just any function. This is what should happen first, right, when this module loads. What do we want to do? We want to grab the username from Jquery. So this will be Jquery grab the element whose ID is username, user button name. We'll grab the password. So this is hash password. I think that's it, right? And we'll need the button now, right? So this is the login button. We'll grab it. Also login button. There we go. And if we click on the login button, we want to call a function login. Yes. So this will be hash login button dot click. We'll call a function called login. Right? And the function is down here, login. What do we want to do? We'd like to be able to, again, create an object out of the username and password and post it to the server. And the server will try and find this user by credentials in the database. So let's do that. Let's create the user object. Will be a JSON object. So this will be username. Notice that I've been lazy and I've been doing this, right, which is perfectly fine. But this is not considered to be a proper JSON object. Proper JSON objects, the names of the properties should be quoted, right? JavaScript is lenient enough to understand that you mean that is quoted, okay? So you'll find a lot that folks, just leave it like that, okay? But that's not proper JSON. Proper JSON is with double quotes, even though you can use single quotes as well, okay? But the syntactically, it should be double quotes, right? But since JavaScript doesn't really care whether you use single quotes or double quotes, it's lenient. It's very lenient. Same thing with password here. You can say double quotes, password. Here I am, on purpose, I am using both just to show you that you can use either. But you should just use double quotes, right? But often you'll see me not using any quotes whatsoever, right? But if you create a JSON file, right, then the JSON file will complain, saying, hey, you're not using proper quotations, right? You need to quote everything, just so you know. All right, excellent. So let's then we'll do a fetch, and we'll send it over to our server, and our server's is going to be listening at login, and we're going to be sending over the following. Right, so on the server, we're going to be sending the file we're going to be posting. So we're going to say that the method is post. We are also going to send over this brand new user object that we created. So we'll need to embedded in the body. So we'll do a JSON stringify. We'll stringify the user object. We'll also add to the headers. We'll say that the content type is JSON. So this is application/JSON, and I think that's it. I think that's all. What do we want to do after we log in successfully? We would like to then navigate to profile. That's if it's successful, right? And there'll be a function here that would do that. So log in, navigate to profile, which is basically just window.location.href, and then navigate to /profile. What is it? Profile.template.client.html. Okay, everybody good? All right. Let's see. Let's try it out. Let's refresh this. And actually, this login HTML is not even referencing this JavaScript, right? We need to load it. All right, so let's do that. Let's go to the template. There it is. Notice that it's not doing anything. There's no JavaScript whatsoever here, right? So let's load that JavaScript. So script, source, and there's my login controller. There it is. We also need to load Jquery itself, right? And notice if you load this right now, it'll complain saying that that there's no $sign. There's no Jquery, right? So let's load that. Let's bring that from the register page. The register page, we did that, right? There it is. Let's load that. Let's go back to the there we go. Let's load it now. Okay, it looks like it's not complaining. Let's log in as Alice. We'll log in. Notice we get a 404 when we try to post to the server. It makes sense. The server is not listening to the login HTML HTTP request. Notice it says 404, not found, right? So notice that we did post correctly to that, but there's nobody sending. Notice that we did even also send the payload correctly, but there's nobody on the other side listening. Okay, so we need to work on that next. Right? There's somewhat similar to what we did in the previous class that for the registration page. Slightly different though, right? In this case, we're not saving anything, we're not inserting anything. We're going to look for stuff. Okay, so let's see how we do that. All right, let's do that next. Yes.
Whenever this error comes, quote unquote, is it necessary that always we are not writing something on the source side? There can be multiple situations when we get this error?
Well, whenever you navigate to the server and it's not there, you'll get a 404, right? It could be an HTML page, right? It could be a JavaScript file that you're referencing, but you misspelled it. It says, well, I tried to find that JavaScript file, but I couldn't find it, right? So notice that if I would have mistyped here, login controller, I would have mistyped this, right? And I refresh my page. No, that's not it. If I refresh my page, notice that I get a 404 right there. See that? Because I'm looking for the JavaScript, but it's not there. So whenever you go to the server and it can't find anything, you'll get a 404. Whether it's a physical file or also any URL that is not mapped to anything, you'll get a 404. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the server side. What would the server do trying to log in? Right. So obviously it needs to parse stuff from the server, from the JSON. Right. It needs to and then look for that in the database. Let's do that next.